Hi, I'm Seth McDonald. I run Robson Valley Biodiesel. We're a very small independent operation up here in Robson Valley, and we collect waste vegetable oil from restaurants from Belmont and McBride, and are now working on collecting all of Jasper's oil as well. Started in on this path in 2008, actually even before then, but started working with vegetable oil, getting covered in grease in 2008, and been addicted to it ever since. Addicted to a clean energy strategy, I should say. We, having burning a lot of fuel in what I do, between my other businesses, silviculture business, we plant trees and do brushing and surveying all over the place. So I run a lot of trucks on that, and traveling in a band, I was starting to see that my carbon footprint was way too high for the messages that I was trying to get out there. So for me, getting into biodiesel was mostly trying to make a personal change, and now I can see that I'm able to help out other members of my community and possibly eke a living out of it. So it's an experiment in sustainable technology for a small community.
How do you feel about the way that we're producing energy as a nation?
Basically, I think we're probably the stupidest nation on earth right now. And I don't mind saying that in that kind of strong language. I think that our energy strategy doesn't exist. We don't have an energy strategy. An energy strategy means that you actually have a strategy, and there seems to be absolutely no plan, no control measures. And now with the recent changes to the environmental policies and laws in our country, we have no environmental protection whatsoever, pretty much. And that's not a plan. That's not a sustainable plan. We have no plan on how we're even going to produce this oil. In fact, we're not. We're going to send it to China in the rawest form possible. So there is no plan as far as I can see. We need to have a plan. And so far, the only planning I've ever seen in Canada is at a grassroots level. And it's really hard to imagine planning at a national level when we're at this point where anyone that comes up with any kind of innovative technology has a really hard time getting any funding, and anyone that speaks out against the oil sands or mass development, including the researchers and scientists, are pretty much labeled as terrorists. So we really need to we need a regime change first, and after that we need to come up with a strategy. We need to come up with a strategy for both our energy and for our regime change. We can't seem to operate with this government.
So supposing that the doors were open to creating a national energy strategy, what would that look like to you? What should that include?
That would be as multifaceted as the many ways in which we can produce energy. It is not, you cannot paint it with a single brush. You cannot look at providing energy for the masses at the level that we're providing it right now. We have to change our entire way of life. That's where it starts, because it's going to take time, and it's going to take sacrifices on the part of every citizen. And we have to look at instead of one huge central region producing energy for the entire country or the entire world, and trading raw materials across oceans and borders. It's all insanity. And just like the locavore food movement, we have to look at that for energy. Every community has to look at its own energy needs and provide for them. And we need to be encouraged to do so at a national and provincial level, not discouraged. And we're not talking about mining raw resources. We're talking about using up waste product. There's so much technology out there in BC for processing waste wood, slash that comes off the cut blocks, into fuel, which can be made into electricity. And we aren't putting anywhere near the energy and focus and funding into that we should be. Biodiesel. Every farming community should have its own biodiesel reactor. This is not. We've looked at biodiesel as a alternative to fossil fuels on a grand scale, and it's failed miserably. Because it was heavily subsidized by the same said oil corporations, so that they could have some sort of green footprint, so to speak. But we're using more diesel to produce this genetically modified oil to make diesel out of than we are producing, and all of this is heavily subsidized by the agriculture, heavily subsidized by the government towards the agricultural business, so that Husky Oil or Petrocan can put a 5%, may contain up to 5% biodiesel sticker on their pumps. But basically, if we could really move away from all of those companies and looking after our own energy strategy, our own energy needs in our communities, and I guess that would look like, something like this, but more so. Every village would have its own producer. And then, to be honest and fair, the internal combustion engine, infernal frustration engine, has been around long enough, and we have other ways. We need to get back into the idea of the electric car. We're not exploring anywhere near where we could on hydrogen fuel cells. There was a YouTube documentary that came out about a guy named Geet who built a reactor that would burn 90% water. Okay, and it's not creating a hydrogen fuel cell; it's burning water. We have the technology to do so. We smother it, destroy it whenever possible at a national and international level, because it seems to me as if the purse strings and all the energy strings are pulled by big oil, and I don't understand why we're still there, especially after the last couple of wars, but we are. And the only way that we can get away from that is to insist as communities that we're not going to need their dirty fuel anymore.
You've mentioned some obstacles. What would you say is the single greatest opportunity, if we could remove the obstacles, the subsidies, and some of the barriers in terms of our leadership?
What would I say is the single biggest opportunity? You mean as far as a single technology that we could move towards, or
a systemic shift?
A systemic shift. Well, I'm not so sure that I can see an actual systemic shift that would happen other than real political will at a grassroots level. But it could be accomplished. I mean, I've been a Green Party member since I was old enough to vote, and the only party in Canada, perhaps the only party in the world that has a national energy strategy, is the Green Party. Obviously, I would like to see them voted into power, because I would like to give them a try. And if we could follow their national energy strategy, we would be heavily subsidizing any green technology producers, and heavily taxing those that pollute. That would be a start, for sure, at a national level. I don't know if I'll ever see that in my lifetime, but I can dream.
Is there anything else you'd like to share on the topic of clean, renewable energy?
Well, I would say that I would like to share that I'm 100% in support of your run, and very proud of you for doing so. It's not something I could do. I'll do what I can, and you can do what you can, and everyone needs to do what they can. We need to very insistently and aggressively shut down the Gateway Pipeline proposal. It is not an option. It won't be coming through BC. And that message has to be sent to Harper and to the oil sands producers that there will be no Gateway Pipeline. As long as they can figure that out, we can move forward.
Well, thank you so much, Rob. I really appreciate your time and coffee this morning. It's been really great.
Thanks, Kim.
Thanks.
Hang on, sorry, there's a